When my family uninvited me from my grandmother's birthday celebration at our family home, they had no idea I'd been secretly paying the mortgage for 3 years. They treated me like an outsider, mocking my struggles while flaunting their success. But as they planned their lavish party in what they thought was their house, I held the one truth that would change everything. The deed was in my name, and eviction notices were already prepared. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's letting people destroy themselves with their own arrogance. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss real stories of justice, betrayal, and personal triumph. The text message came through while I was restocking shelves at Henderson's Hardware, my hands covered in dust from unpacking boxes of sandpaper. My phone buzzed in my back pocket and I almost ignored it. Almost. Family meeting tonight at the house. 7 p.m. sharp. Actually, scratch that. Don't bother coming. This is for real family only. Mom. I stared at the screen, my heart doing that familiar, painful squeeze it always did when my family reminded me I didn't quite belong. The house. They always called it the house, like it was some sacred temple, like its walls held decades of precious memories instead of years of my silent suffering. My name is Rebecca Morgan. I'm 27 years old, and I work 2 jobs in Fairfield, Connecticut, a wealthy suburb where I grew up but could never quite afford to stay. The hardware store during the day, bartending at night, sleeping maybe 5 hours if I'm lucky. My apartment is a studio above a dry cleaner, and the smell of chemicals has permanently embedded itself in my clothes, my hair, my skin. But none of that matters to my family. To them, I'm just the failure, the disappointment, the one who couldn't quite get her life together. You okay, Becca? My manager Tom asked, noticing I'd been frozen in place for the past minute. Yeah, I lied, shoving my phone back into my pocket. Just family stuff. He nodded sympathetically. Tom knew about my family. I'd worked for him for 3 years, and he'd witnessed more than a few tearful breaks in the storage room after particularly brutal family gatherings. Like this video and subscribe for more real stories like this. The family meeting they didn't want me at was probably about my grandmother's 80th birthday party next month. My whole family had been buzzing about it for weeks. My mother, my older sister Chelsea, my younger brother Derek, even my father who usually stayed out of family drama. They were planning something big, something elaborate, and apparently I wasn't invited. I finished my shift in a fog, my mind replaying every family gathering where I'd been treated like a ghost. Christmas dinners where Chelsea announced her promotion to senior marketing director while I quietly mentioned picking up extra bartending shifts. Thanksgiving where Derek showed off his new Tesla while I arrived in my 15-year-old Honda with the duct-taped bumper. And always, the house loomed in the background of these gatherings. The beautiful colonial revival on Maple Ridge Drive with its wraparound porch, pristine white columns, and manicured lawn. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a chef's kitchen that my mother loved to show off, and a backyard that had hosted countless parties I was expected to help set up, but never truly invited to enjoy. What my family didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the house wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. My grandmother, Dorothy Morgan, had been the family matriarch, the glue that held our dysfunctional clan together. She'd bought that house in 1978 with my grandfather, raised my father there, and watched it become the center of Morgan family life. When my grandfather died 15 years ago, Grandma Dot stayed in the house, refusing to downsize despite my parents' suggestions that she move into something more manageable. 3 years ago, when I was 24 and drowning in student debt from a degree I never finished, Grandma Dot called me over for tea. I remember that afternoon perfectly. It was October, and her kitchen smelled like cinnamon and apples. She was making her famous apple crisp, the recipe she'd never written down because she said cooking was about feeling, not measuring. "Rebecca," she said, sliding a cup of Earl Grey across her kitchen table. "I need to talk to you about something important." I'd braced myself for bad news, cancer maybe, or dementia. Instead, she pulled out a folder of financial documents. "The house is going to be foreclosed," she said simply. No tears, no drama. "I took out a reverse mortgage 10 years ago to help your father with his business debts. He promised to pay it back. He didn't." My stomach had dropped. "Does Dad know?" "Your father," she said with the particular sharpness she reserved for discussing her son's failures, "knows exactly what he did. And he's told everyone in the family that I'm being dramatic, that everything is fine, that I'm just getting old and confused." She pushed the papers toward me. The numbers were devastating. She owed $180,000, and the foreclosure process had already begun. "Why are you showing me this?" I'd asked. "Because you're the only one who ever asked how I was doing without wanting something in return," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "And because I have a proposition." Her proposition was insane. She wanted me to buy the house from her, not the full value, just enough to pay off the reverse mortgage and stop the foreclosure. She'd transfer the deed to my name, I'd cover the mortgage payments, and she'd continue living there for as long as she wanted. To the rest of the family, nothing would change. They'd still think the house was hers, still gather there for holidays, still treat it as the family hub. But why? I'd asked. Why me and not Dad or Chelsea or Derek? "Because they've already proven what they'd do with it," she said firmly. "Your father would remortgage it again within a year. Chelsea would sell it and buy something trendy in the city. Derek would turn it into an investment property. But you, Rebecca, you understand what home means." I'd done it. I'd scraped together every penny I had, taken out a personal loan I'm still paying off, worked myself to exhaustion, and bought my grandmother's house. The deed was transferred to my name, though it was kept quiet through a trust that my grandmother's lawyer set up. To everyone else, Grandma Dot still owned the house. And for 3 years, I'd been paying the mortgage. Every month, $1,850 from my paychecks went to keeping that house. The house where I wasn't welcome. The house where my family gathered to celebrate lives I wasn't part of. The house that represented everything I'd been excluded from. But I'd kept my promise to Grandma Dot. She lived there peacefully, tending her garden, baking her apple crisps, and I never told anyone the truth. That night, I drove past the house on my way home from the hardware store. The lights were on, and I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. My family was having their real family-only meeting, probably planning Grandma's party, deciding what to do about the house now that she was getting older. I parked down the street and pulled out my phone. I had a text from my grandmother. "They're trying to convince me to move into assisted living, sweetheart. Your mother has brochures. I told them I'm perfectly fine, but they're not listening. I'm tired, Rebecca. So tired of the fighting." My hands tightened around the steering wheel. Assisted living? They wanted to move her out so they could have the house. My mother had always loved that house, had always acted like she was its rightful heir. Chelsea had recently gone through a messy divorce and was probably eyeing it as a fresh start. Derek and his wife had 3 kids crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment and had been not so subtly commenting about family property for months. I texted back, "Don't worry, Grandma, I've got this." Her response came quickly. "What are you going to do?" I stared at the house, at the warm lights and the family I'd never quite belonged to, and made a decision. I'm going to remind them that home isn't about who wants it most. It's about who's actually been taking care of it. The party invitation, or rather, the lack of one, came officially 2 days later. My mother called while I was stocking beer at the bar where I worked nights. "Rebecca, honey," she said in that fake sweet voice she used when she wanted something or was about to deliver bad news. "We need to talk about Grandma's birthday party." I tucked the phone between my ear and shoulder, continuing to work. "Okay. Well, here's the thing. We're having it at the house, obviously, and it's going to be quite large. We've invited over 100 people, all of Mom's friends from the garden club, the church, the neighborhood. It's going to be very elegant, very sophisticated." I waited. I knew what was coming. "And, well, we thought it might be better if you didn't attend." There it was, delivered with the casual cruelty my family had perfected over the years. "Better for who?" I asked quietly. "For everyone, really. Chelsea is bringing her new boyfriend. He's a surgeon, very successful. And Derek's been working so hard on his investment portfolio. We want this to be a celebration of success, of family achievement. And you, well," she trailed off, but the implication was clear. "I'm an embarrassment," I finished for her. "That's not what I said. You're just in a different place in life right now. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable." The audacity of it took my breath away. They were throwing a party in a house I was paying for, and telling me I wasn't good enough to attend. "Besides," Mom continued, oblivious to my silence, "we'll need you to work that weekend anyway. The caterer I hired is short-staffed, and I remembered you have restaurant experience. I told them you'd be available to help serve. You'll get paid, of course. They wanted me to serve drinks at my grandmother's party, in my own house, to guests who thought I was too much of a failure to attend as family. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Well, Don't think too long. The caterer needs to know by Friday. Oh, and Rebecca? Please don't mention this to your grandmother. She gets so emotional about these things, and we don't want to upset her before her big day. After she hung up, I stood in the bar's storage room, surrounded by boxes of liquor and beer, and let myself feel the full weight of it. The humiliation, the anger, the bone-deep exhaustion of trying to be part of a family that had never wanted me. Then I pulled out my phone and called my grandmother's lawyer. Mr. Patterson, it's Rebecca Morgan. I need to schedule a meeting. It's time to discuss the house. What would you do in my situation? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe. Over the next 3 weeks, I watched my family's party preparations from a distance. My mother posted constantly on Facebook about the family home and the wonderful celebration they were planning. Chelsea shared designer photos of her outfit for the exclusive family event. Derek posted pictures of the expensive whiskey he'd bought as a gift, captioning it, "Only the best for Grandma's 80th at the family estate." The family estate. My house. I met with Mr. Patterson twice during those weeks. He reviewed all the documentation, the deed transfer, the mortgage payments, the trust agreement. Everything was ironclad. The house was legally mine, had been for 3 years, and I had every right to it. "What exactly do you want to do?" he asked during our second meeting. "I want them to know the truth," I said. "But not until after they've shown exactly who they are." He raised an eyebrow. "That's quite calculated, Ms. Morgan. They taught me well." Mr. Patterson helped me prepare everything. Legal notices, documentation, even a locksmith on standby. We planned it carefully, every detail, every contingency. My grandmother knew what was coming. I'd told her my plan, and for the first time in weeks, I'd seen her smile. Really smile the way she used to before the weight of family manipulation had worn her down. "Give them hell, sweetheart," she'd whispered during one of my secret visits. "I'm so tired of pretending." The week before the party, my mother called again. "Rebecca, the caterer confirmed you for Saturday. You'll arrive at 2 p.m. for setup. The party starts at 6. You'll wear all black, obviously, and please make sure your appearance is professional. This is a high-class event. Actually, Mom, I need to talk to you about Saturday." Her tone sharpened. "Rebecca, don't you dare back out. We're counting on you." "I'm not backing out. I just need to clarify something about the house." "What about it?" "Who owns it?" There was a pause. "What kind of question is that? Your grandmother owns it, obviously. Why? And after Grandma's gone? You all have been talking about that a lot lately, haven't you? About what happens to the family home?" "That's family business, Rebecca. Private family business that doesn't concern you." "Doesn't concern me?" I repeated slowly. "Interesting. Look, if you're fishing for some kind of inheritance, you can forget it. That house will go to the people who've actually been there for Mom, who've actually contributed to this family. Not someone who can barely keep a job and lives in an apartment that probably has cockroaches." The cruelty was casual, automatic. She didn't even sound angry. Just matter of fact, like she was stating an obvious truth. "I'll see you Saturday, Mom," I said, and hung up. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, mild, exactly what you'd want for an outdoor party. I drove to Maple Ridge Drive at exactly 2 p.m. as instructed, but not to serve drinks. I was there to drop a bomb. The caterers were already setting up when I arrived. My mother was in her element, directing workers like a general commanding troops. Chelsea stood on the porch in a designer dress, phone in hand, probably live streaming her perfect family celebration. Derek was in the backyard, helping his kids set up on the new swing set they'd apparently installed in Grandma's yard without asking. My grandmother sat in her favorite chair by the window, watching everything with tired eyes. I parked across the street and waited. Mr. Patterson pulled up beside me 10 minutes later, briefcase in hand. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "I've never been more sure of anything." At 2:30 p.m., I walked up to the front door of my house. My mother saw me first, and her expression went from confusion to irritation in seconds. "Rebecca, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the back, helping with setup. And what are you wearing? That's not appropriate serving attire." I was wearing jeans and my favorite sweater, the comfortable one Grandma had bought me for Christmas 2 years ago. "I'm not here to serve, Mom." "Excuse me. We had an agreement. The caterer is expecting you." Mr. Patterson stepped up beside me. My mother's eyes widened when she saw the lawyer, the briefcase, the official documents he was already pulling out. "What's going on?" Chelsea appeared in the doorway, her phone still recording. "Who is this?" "Everyone inside," I said calmly. "Family meeting, real family only, right?" My father emerged from the kitchen, Derek from the backyard. They all gathered in the living room, my living room, looking confused and increasingly annoyed. "Rebecca, this is ridiculous," my father started. "We have a party to prepare for, whatever this is." "Sit down," I said, and something in my voice made them listen. Mr. Patterson opened his briefcase. "My name is James Patterson. I'm the attorney who handled the property transfer of this house 3 years ago. I'm here today on behalf of my client, Rebecca Morgan, who is the legal owner of this property." The silence was profound. "What?" Chelsea laughed nervously. "That's insane. Grandma owns this house. Your grandmother sold this house to Rebecca 3 years ago to prevent foreclosure," Mr. Patterson continued, pulling out documents. "Here's the deed, properly recorded with the county. Here are 3 years of mortgage payments, all made by Rebecca. Here's the trust agreement. This house has been legally owned by Rebecca Morgan since October 15th, 3 years ago." My mother's face had gone white. "That's impossible. Mom would have told us." "Why?" I asked. "You never asked how she was doing financially. You never wondered how she kept the house after Dad drained her savings for his failed business ventures. You just assumed it would always be here, waiting for you to claim it." "This is a scam," Derek said, but his voice shook. "You're trying to steal our inheritance." "Your inheritance?" I stood up, years of suppressed rage finally finding its voice. "Let me tell you about inheritance, Derek. Inheritance is what you get from family who loves you, who supports you, who sees you as more than a disappointment or a servant. What inheritance have any of you given me except shame?" "Rebecca," my father started. "No, you don't get to talk. For 3 years, I've paid the mortgage on this house. $1,850 every single month while working 2 jobs, while living in a studio apartment that, yes, Mom, sometimes has cockroaches. While you all gathered here for holidays I wasn't invited to, while you treated me like I was worth less than nothing. I pulled out my own folder of documents. Here's every mortgage payment. Here's every property tax bill. Here's every repair I've paid for. The roof leak last winter, the furnace that broke, the plumbing issue in the downstairs bathroom. I've kept this house running while you all enjoyed it." Chelsea's phone had gone dark. She was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. "And now," I continued, "you're throwing a party. In my house. A party I'm not good enough to attend as a guest, but good enough to serve drinks at. Do you have any idea how that feels?" "We didn't know," my mother whispered. But there was no conviction in it. "You didn't want to know. There's a difference." I turned to Mr. Patterson. "Show them the rest." He pulled out a new set of documents. "These are eviction notices prepared this morning. As of 4 p.m. today, you are all trespassing on private property. The party is canceled. All decorations, catering supplies, and personal items must be removed by tomorrow at noon." "You can't do this," Derek shouted. "You can't just kick us out. There are 100 people coming." "I can, and I am. This is my house. I make the rules now." My father finally found his voice. "Rebecca, please. Your grandmother, where will she go?" "Grandma's not going anywhere," I said, and smiled for the first time since arriving. "This is her home. I bought it for her, to protect her from all of you. She stays as long as she wants. The rest of you need to leave." My grandmother appeared in the doorway then, steady on her feet, her eyes clear and fierce. "You heard my granddaughter. Get out of her house." The chaos that followed was almost cathartic. My mother's tears, Chelsea's disbelief, Derek's anger, my father's attempts at negotiation, none of it moved me. Mr. Patterson stood firm. The documents were legal, and by 4 p.m., my family was gone. The caterers packed up, confused but professional. The decorations came down. The party, like so many of their assumptions about me, simply dissolved. That evening, I sat on the porch of my house with my grandmother, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For being the person I always knew you were. For not letting them break you." I leaned my head on her shoulder. "I learned from the best." "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Will you move in?" I'd been thinking about that all day. The house was beautiful, but it held so many painful memories. Still, it was mine. I'd earned it. "I think," I said slowly, I'm going to renovate it, turn it into something new. Keep what matters, change what doesn't. Maybe rent out rooms to people who need a safe place, who understand what it's like to not quite fit in. Grandma smiled. A real home. A real home, I agreed. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of justice and family truth. 2 weeks later, we threw a different kind of party. Small, intimate, just Grandma's real friends, the ones from the garden club who actually liked her, not the social climbers my mother had invited. My coworkers from the hardware store and the bar. Tom brought his wife. Mr. Patterson came with his husband. And in a surprise that nearly made me cry, my friend Sarah from college, the one friend I'd lost touch with because I was too ashamed of my circumstances to stay in contact, showed up with her 2 kids. Your grandmother called me, she explained, hugging me tight. Told me everything. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you. I wasn't there for me either, I admitted. But I am now. We sang happy birthday. We ate Grandma's apple crisp. We laughed on the porch of my house, and for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere. My family did try to reconcile, eventually. My mother called 2 months later, apologetic and subdued. Chelsea sent a long email about family therapy and making amends. Derek showed up once, asking if I'd consider letting him rent a room since his landlord had raised his rent. I listened to all of them, politely, and then I said no. Not with anger, not with spite, but with the calm certainty of someone who finally understood her own worth. You taught me an important lesson, I told my mother during that phone call. You taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about who shows up for you when things are hard, who sees you when you're invisible, who loves you not for what you can give them, but for who you are. And we didn't do that, she said quietly. No, you didn't. Can we try again? I thought about it, really thought about it. Maybe someday, but right now I'm building something new. A life where I'm not the family failure or the invisible daughter, just Rebecca, in her own house, living her own life. I still work at the hardware store, though I cut back my bartending shifts. The house's mortgage is manageable now that I'm not also paying rent elsewhere. Grandma and I cook together most evenings, and she's teaching me her recipes. The ones she never wrote down. The ones that are about feeling rather than measuring. I've started renovating, slowly. The living room where my family held their meeting is now a library. The formal dining room where I served while others ate has become a craft space. I'm making the house mine, room by room, memory by memory. And sometimes, late at night, I sit on the porch and think about that text message. This is for real family only. They were right, in a way. The house is for real family. They just never understood that real family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who's willing to bleed for you. And in the end, the only person who did that was me. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more real stories of personal triumph and justice. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below. Nah.